Today, we're privileged to have former Chief Justice and human rights activist Dr. Willy Mutunga join us for an intimate conversation. His life journey has been characterized by resilience and justice. Let's explore the experiences that have shaped his life's remarkable trajectory. Thank you for taking the time to be with us here today.
Yeah, thank you.
So our first question is, what's one book that you think has had a significant impact in your life, and how did it influence you?
I would say that Walter Rodney's book, how Europe underdeveloped Africa, had great impact on me in terms of economic thinking, political thinking, ideological thinking, and about humanity and history. So that if you don't understand, your history, and I am sad to hear that history is not taught in our schools. Right? History is so important. So Walter Rodney was a great historian, and when I was studying in Dar, he published this book, how Europe underdeveloped Africa. But within it, there was another title, How Africa Developed Europe. So it's touched on a lot of things that I'd experienced in school, in my community, and it gave me a grounding, which you can call an intellectual, political, and ideological grounding. Okay, so yeah, but of course there are the books, the Bible, the Quran, and others. But that's basically the one I would say. Yeah, significant. Yeah.
So our next question is, what's one skill or hobby that you've always wanted to learn but you've never had the chance to?
Yes, I've always wanted to be a preacher, but I've never been. I think it's a good profession.
What do you find interesting about it?
It's any individual or any organization that has a following excites and incites, my brain, because it takes a lot of it takes a lot of courage, intelligence to have a message that has followers. Okay? And that's what you learn from Muhammad. That's what you learn from, Jesus Christ. People who have a message of truth, right? It's in a minority, but it moves, from the margin to the center. And those messages, like Jesus and Muhammad, have become global. Okay? And if you trace the history, they came from a very, very small area, but then they expanded, and so religion does, prophets and others actually are very, very, very great teachers if you come to internalize, what they did and their own truth, which was resisted by various interests who didn't want to hear about it, but they still, went on, and the messages became very, very, very powerful after they died. So is that aspect of me was saying, maybe I should retire and start my own church or my own mosque, and yeah.
Interesting. If you could have dinner with any three people, living or dead, who would you pick and why?
A dinner with three
people, living or dead?
Dead will be my mother. the living, this guy called Prophet David Owo intrigues me, so I would like him to be in that dinner. They have to be two alive?
No, you can pick.
And two dead? Or?
Even historical figures that you find interesting.
There are so many. People like Nyerere, Amilcar Cabral, people like Mao Zedong, Lenin, even Marx himself, on the actual, the politics. Even Thomas Sankara, getting to know exactly what inspired them. Wangari Maathai, her stories is powerful. The woman who died, called Field Marshal Mudhoni, having a discussion with Dedan Kimathi would be, interesting. So there are a lot of people who would I would like to invite, but there are obviously more than 3. It will have to be a party.
And what will you serve at this dinner? What will you serve to them? What food?
What food? That's a very interesting question. Obviously not mkojo wa shetani. There will be no alcohol. that won't be there. But I think the discussions will be the food. I would imagine they have eaten and so forth. It will be, a conversation that is not restricted to themes, but where I just listen.
And you see, we're having a very nice conversation right now. But in your time, would you have been able to talk to someone as prominent as you, as someone our age?
Yeah, if there were, I mean, we had teachers who taught us in primary and secondary school. They were very, very accessible. They would even come to our homes to see whether we were reading or, but we were engaged in doing something for the community. So growing up, the relationship between me and the teachers and the elders in the community of all ages, women. So that was easy. It wasn't difficult. I think what was difficult is you couldn't. You couldn't talk to a chief, for example, a colonial chief. That wasn't possible. You couldn't talk to a district commissioner, and during that period, Kenya was colonized and there was colonial segregation. There were certain places you couldn't go. Okay. These days. Because of our transformation, you can talk to, you can actually talk to people, as students, you can even invite Ruto and he will come. So, the society has changed, and under our 2010 constitution, when you look at this article, I think it's 53, the rights of children, those are people between 0 and 18. They are very robust, allowing this kind of interaction. Mm-hmm.
So, seeing that you've achieved so much and you're definitely a remarkable man, what would you say has driven you to become the man you are today?
It's so difficult to answer that question because I think your generation has what you call a career path or what you want to become. My generation didn't operate that way. You were very lucky if you went to school. And so once in school, in the 50s and 60s, all you focused on was to pass exams. Because you knew the moment you pass exams, you were going to be somebody. You were either going to be a teacher or whatever. In fact, around 60s when we are independent, every student knew that our white teachers were leaving. And we needed more Kenyans to take over those jobs. So it was clear to me when I went to Strathmore to do my A-levels and I went to Dar es Salaam. I knew that I was going to get something, but I studied law because there are not many black lawyers in this, in this country. But the key thing that I want to emphasize is in the 50s and 60s was education. You wanted to get there, knew very well. And while in school, the community will call you Black Mzungu because you are going to take over from the white Wazungus. So you just focused on education. People ask me why I went to study law. And I went to Dar es Salaam because I wanted to, get out of Kenya and visit places. Just like from Kitui to Nairobi, it took me many years before I came to this city to see what it looked like. So we were not focused on careers as your generation was, because that wasn't an issue. We knew you would be a teacher, you would be an engineer, you would be a lawyer. Yeah.
And of course, you have gone through a lot of hardships in your life. So what has motivated you to keep in the work of social justice and fighting for the oppressed?
I think the main reason for me was that, in 1982 I was detained for 16 months. I was innocent and I loved teaching in the university, and we were basically, they were interfering with academic freedom. And so after I came out with a commitment that I would just fight for rights of people against any government. And so that has been my trajectory. Because in prisons you either come out completely destroyed and you don't want to fight, but there are cases like mine and others when you're very, very angry about what happened to you, the way your family is destroyed, you lose your job and you are innocent, right? So you focus on who is responsible for that, and you realize, the same government or the same political leaders or the same system is the one that is causing, other problems, poverty, etc. All right. So it's a lot of people who are human rights activists. If you ask them, they have the same story. If it's a woman, maybe she was abused or violated or beaten up. And they basically say, this is not going to happen to any other woman. And then they become missionaries of that cause. And when we are on that cause, you don't look back. Yeah.
What would you say your definition of success is, and has it changed over time?
Success is a very individualistic thing.
Yeah.
It's the, success is like legacy. People ask me what's your legacy, and it's very difficult to answer because you have to leave it to historians. And in a country like Kenya, if you are in public service and you ask people, what is his legacy? And I come from the Kamba community. The Kamba community will say he was in power, but he didn't help us. So your legacy goes. Then there are other people who might think, particularly people from NFD, where I worked very hard to get them courts and also get the communities there to be involved in the administration of justice. They will remember me differently. So even success, if I talk about it, I always feel like it's self-praise. So I would rather, other people outside me, talk about whether they are criticizing or they are saying, okay, you did this and the other. That's how it should be. Yes.
Okay. So, what would you say is the most amusing or unexpected moment you've experienced in the courtroom during your career?
In the courtroom?
Yes.
Actually, there were many, but what surprises me is that it's the presidential petition of 2013 that seems to capture the imagination of a lot of people. And it wasn't much of a groundbreaking case or whatever, right? It's just that people are interested in the outcome and so forth. And so I always think of that case as very, very, very important, because I knew one thing when we started hearing it. I knew that there will be 50% of people who will glorify us, and 50% of the people who will vilify us. And that's what happened. In this country, even if you are Solomon, you can't deal with a presidential petition and expect to be embraced by everybody, because politics or division. So if particular communities want a particular person, you didn't give them the decision they wanted, they start calling you. Yes. I remember after that case, there are a lot of people who told me that I'm not Chief Justice, I'm Chief Injustice. Another term. And so yeah, that still remains very pivotal in terms of talking to young people about it. That if you are going to talk about democracy and you're going to talk about politics, and you want courts to decide on disputes, right? Then don't divide the people, Let the people participate in the case and make their own, decisions. Because a lot of these petitions are carried live. But that is what it should be, but the reality is different.
So how have you managed to deal with the backlash that you've experienced from different deliberations?
No, because I love my critics. I love my critics. You have to listen to your critics if you want to be balanced. You cannot just listen to people who praise you and who glorify you. The critics matter. Okay? If the one philosopher who said that even the insane have sane moments if you listened. Okay, maybe 90% insanity, but 10% something that is true. Have you heard of this saying that every market has its own mad person? But who listens to that mad person except children? And the children benefit a lot because they empathize, and then start to because everybody around them is saying he's mad, you know. But kids listen because of the empathy, sympathize with the person. My history was that we had one in our market, and he was very political and very critical, and he could attack people who are not good neighbors, but because nobody took him seriously. Yeah. So yes, my critics. Yeah.
How do you think young people who are interested in pursuing a career in law can contribute maybe like to the Kenyan legal system?
At the moment, anybody who is pursuing a career in law has a foundation, a great foundation in terms of economic, political, social, even spiritual. You have that foundation from the Constitution itself. If you read the 2010 Constitution, as a lawyer, you can understand why you want to be a human rights lawyer, why you want to practice in land, why you want to pursue, religious rights. So we have that background, which gives young people a great chance to basically choose whether you want to focus on women's rights, for example. It has to be, I think for me, lawyers who have no cause, lawyers who just think law is about making money. They actually lose the plot. The law is about politics. It's about transformation. It's about humanity, making sure that rights of people are not, violated and so forth. And so it's a powerful profession in that way. But a lot of people are, whenever I ask them, these days with your generation, you can ask somebody, why do you want to be a lawyer? And they give you a very good answer. The other day I met with a woman who is from Uganda, and she's a lawyer. So I asked her, why did you want to read law? And she didn't hesitate. It's the background in seeing how women are treated, particularly from the village, from wherever, whatnot. And she thinks if since she's a lawyer, she can focus on that one. And that's like a calling. It's like a calling, And you find that when you are doing it, it's comforting, and you feel you're doing something, for the society, and it de-individualizes, your profession, and the issues might be like in your communities, issues about child marriages, all manner of things that go on, and you grow up saying this is not right, and then you get into a profession, you say, yes, now I'm going to completely deal with it. And law is a very interesting profession because it brings you, it gets you into relationships or with the mighty and the poorest of the community. Okay? And you can even mediate, between conflicts, because of it, because it's a profession that allows you The only thing about lawyers that lawyers always say they are learned, but lawyers are the most ignorant professionals. When it comes to education, politics, economics, and that's why when you read law, you've got to be a student of history, a student of politics, a student of economics, even if it's self-education, But you can't just go around saying the law is a law is a law, and then you're looking at a particular rule outside that broad context of economics, of religion, and so forth, right? Yeah.
So what do you think the future of justice and the law will be as the younger generation moves into law?
Well, the future depends on the young generation. It doesn't depend on the law itself. Because if you want to implement the Constitution, which is a basis of social transformation, for example, there is a future there where you fight for social transformation, you fight for, for justice, for all, because even now that's not the case.
So with so many young people joining the profession, do you think there's a chance that we might experience an oversaturation?
I don't think so. I've always heard that argument, and that argument comes from lawyers who are fattening under the profession and they don't want competition. There are a lot of places in this country that need lawyers. You go to small towns and you find there's nobody. So, when you become a lawyer, you can go to your marketplace where you come from and start from there. You might be surprised. Now you grow, you practice, and you just become like a pastor or like an imam, going all over the place and getting paid for it. It's just a question of looking for opportunities that are not being addressed. I don't think that there can ever be more. We are about 50 million. There are only 25,000 lawyers who practice. 50 million, 25. It's a drop in the ocean. So it's not possible. And then the older generations are also quitting, right? And the new generations are coming in. So I think it's a profession that, will grow, and, not all lawyers practice. There are others who do many other things. It's a very foundation profession, which I basically think that that narrative is by people who control the market, and they don't want people to come in, and so they can influence the law schools, they can influence Kenya School of Law, fail people, make sure that we don't have so many of them, which I think is totally unjust. Yeah.
This has been a very insightful session. Thank you so much for gracing us.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Sharing your
Great
wisdom.
questions also. Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.